They called them walls of stone and iron, built to outlast time itself. Yet time and again these impenetrable fortresses fell, sometimes not to brute force, but to cleverness, deception, and hacks so ahead of their age they'd make modern tacticians raise an eyebrow. These weren't just battles of brawn. They were mind games, tech experiments, and masterclasses in innovation under fire. Today we're digging deep into 8 medieval siege hacks that flip the rules of warfare, and you've probably never heard of them. One of the oldest tricks in the medieval playbook wasn't a sword or siege tower, it was a well-timed act. Armies would pretend to flee in panic, dropping banners and retreating in chaos, only to lure defenders out of their fortified safety. Once the gates opened for a supposed victory chase, the attackers would turn, strike, and storm the city before the defenders could react. The Mongols perfected this psychological masterstroke, but even European commanders used it to devastating effect. It wasn't just about fighting, it was theatre, precision, and timing. A lesson in knowing when to appear weak to win. When brute force failed, patience did the job. Starvation was the most unglamorous but brutally effective siege weapon of all. Armies surrounded cities, cut off supply lines, poisoned wells, and watched time do their work. The siege of Kenilworth Castle in 1266 lasted nearly 6 months because of it. Siege wasn't always about who had the bigger weapons, it was about who could outlast whom. Food, water, and morale, those were the real battlegrounds. In a way, this was psychological warfare dressed as endurance, proving that sometimes waiting is the deadliest weapon of all. While everyone looked to the towers, some of the deadliest battles happened underground. Enter the art of tunnelling and sapping. Attackers would dig beneath castle walls, propping up the tunnels with wooden beams. Then they'd set the beams on fire. When the supports burned away, the walls above collapsed like dominoes. Defenders countered with their own tunnels, leading to eerie underground skirmishes fought by torchlight and echo. You could say this was medieval engineering's secret front, where math, sweat, and sheer nerve met in the dark. The idea of sneaking inside a fortress wasn't just a Greek myth. Medieval sieges had their own versions. Carts loaded with hay concealing soldiers, traders delivering goods that turned into ambushes, even disguised monks who opened gates from within. It was all about infiltration. One record tells of soldiers hiding inside barrels of wine sent as tribute, then emerging at night to overpower guards. Deception wasn't cowardly, it was strategic genius. In a world where walls kept enemies out, the smartest move was finding a way in without knocking. Water wasn't just a moat, it was a weapon and a pathway. During river sieges, armies built makeshift floating bridges and siege platforms that acted like mobile islands. Some even mounted catapults on barges to bombard fortresses from the water. One remarkable feat saw attackers rerouting entire rivers to flood enemy defences. Think about that, using nature as an accomplice. It showed just how adaptive medieval engineers were, turning landscapes into lethal tools long before environmental warfare had a name. Siege engines were massive, complex, and time-consuming to build, but medieval armies were resourceful to the bone. When supplies ran low, they improvised. Fallen trees became catapult arms. Spare wagon wheels turned into winches. Even animal sinew was used as tension cords. During long sieges, they'd scavenge enemy debris, repurpose captured materials, and keep innovating on the fly. This was the original hackathon of war. Creative problem-solving with zero margin for error. The line between survival and innovation was razor-thin, and they walked it like masters. Forget swords. The most dangerous weapon was a rumour. Psychological warfare ran deep in medieval sieges. Agents spread whispers of betrayal, famine or plague within castle walls. Doubt spread faster than disease. Defenders began questioning their leaders, and fear did what siege engines couldn't. Sometimes it didn't take a battering ram to break a wall, it just took a whisper in the right ear. Modern information warfare? Well, medieval commanders were already running that playbook centuries ago. People forget that winning a siege wasn't just about attacking, it was about staying alive while doing it. Feeding tens of thousands of men, keeping weapons in repair, and preventing disease from wiping out your camp, all while under enemy fire, was a logistical ballet. The best commanders were part general, part quartermaster, part engineer. Some built entire portable forges to repair siege engines on the move. Others stockpiled grain in hidden caches months ahead of a campaign. It wasn't glamorous, but it was what turned desperate assaults into disciplined victories. Strip away the armour, the banners, and the catapults, and you'll find the real medieval secret wasn't about war, it was about innovation under pressure. Every hack, every tactic was a lesson in adaptability. These ancient engineers and strategists weren't just trying to take a castle. They were solving impossible problems with limited tools and limitless creativity. Today, those same principles echo in everything from military planning to business strategy. Outsmart, outlast, outthink. Whether it's a fortress or a financial market, the same logic holds. It's not about having the biggest force. It's about using your resources with cunning precision. So, next time you hear about a medieval siege, don't picture just rocks and rams. Picture a chessboard of human ingenuity, where every move mattered and every innovation changed the course of history. If you love uncovering the forgotten brilliance behind ancient warfare, make sure to subscribe to The Forgotten Warfronts. Hit that like button, share this with a fellow history enthusiast, and keep exploring the strategies that shaped our world, one siege hack at a time.